11 o'clock, and we're going to start our People's Hearing. I want to say good evening, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the People's Hearing, Stories of Mariner East. My name is Jillian Graber. I'm the Executive Director of Protect PT, one of the coalition members for the HaltMarinerNow Coalition. I would like to welcome everyone tonight, and thank you all for participating in this very important event. Since the beginning of the construction of Mariner East Pipeline, residents across Pennsylvania have been the witness of property and environmental damage that has plagued our Commonwealth by Energy Transfer Sunoco. Tonight we will be hearing stories of this destruction by people that have lived through this harm. We, the people of Pennsylvania, need a chance to speak in a public forum so the state agencies and lawmakers can hear our stories. I would like to thank and acknowledge the different groups that helped plan this event, including Berks Gas Truth, Middletown Coalition, Sierra Club, and Protect PT, as well as other members of the coalition and other partners that helped with social media outreach and other things. We are live streaming on Facebook as well as Protect PT's YouTube, so you can access that link as well and share this video with other folks after the hearing. I want to go over some ground rules, so go ahead if you go to the next screen, Patrick. First, the agenda. We're going to have speakers sign in, check in. We're going to introduce the speakers and housekeeping, which is what we're doing now, introductions. And then we're going to be beginning the prepared testimony around 7:05, 7:10. We're going to end testimony a little bit before 8 o'clock. We don't have quite 12 speakers, but after our registered speakers, we will potentially take a short slideshow break. But I think for the most part, we're going to open up the floor to anyone else that would like to speak that hasn't had a chance to speak. Perhaps you didn't prepare something ahead of time, but you'd like to speak, and this would be your opportunity to do so. So go ahead to the next screen, Patrick. So just a few things. Everyone has 3 minutes to speak. If you're not speaking, please mute yourself. If you're the next speaker on the list, please be ready to speak at the time we've established, and please take yourself on video if possible. Before you begin your testimony, please state your full name, address, including city, state, street, county, and zip code. Reminder for all speakers, please keep your testimony to 3 minutes. At the end of all the registered speakers, we will open the floor for public comment. Anyone wishing to provide public comment that did not sign up to speak ahead of time, please add your name to the chat, and we will be calling on the speakers in the order in which they place their information in the chat. If you are speaking during this time, we ask you that you follow the same format as the previous registered speakers. 3 minutes and mute yourself when you're not speaking. We ask everyone to be courteous while people are speaking. We will not be taking questions at this time. This is a time for people who've had these lived experiences dealing with harms and hardships of Mariner East to tell their story. If you're a reporter and you'd like to contact a speaker after tonight's event, we ask that you chat with them privately after they are finished speaking, or you can email info@haltmarinernow.org for comments for our coalition members, and we're happy to pass along your information to individuals as needed. Our timekeeper this evening is George Alexander. Say hi, George. He's author and publisher of Dragon Pipe Diary, and he'll be giving time cues. George, do you want to hold up your sign to show what those are going to look like? Thank you. You can learn more about George's work by going to dragonpipediaries.com. And so we've got some housekeeping tips. So when on Zoom, it's good, we have noted when your microphone is muted and how to stop and start video by our screen. You can see all the different participants, and you can chat with the participants as well. So you can see that at the bottom of the screen there. as well as if you'd like to see more participants, you can put it into gallery view, and you can actually slide the presentation screen over to the left and right to see more participants or less, depending on how many you want to see at one time. Go ahead to the next screen. All right, so more tips for Zoom. You can rename yourself by hovering over your name and clicking rename. So if you're named as something else, if you're borrowing someone's Zoom account, you can do that. Add your pronouns if preferred, and mute yourself when you're not talking. If you go to the next screen. Okay, and so in order to chat, you can access the chat by the little thing down below. Right now, it looks like there are 2 people that have chatted, and so you can access that there, and you can chat everyone or chat one person individually. So before we get to our first speaker, I want to thank a member of the PUC who has shown up tonight to attend our hearing, and I want to give him an opportunity to introduce himself and also to speak. We have invited members of the PUC. We've invited members of the DEP as well as the governor, and we want to thank the member of the PUC for attending tonight. You were the only one that actually returned our invitation, so we want to thank you for that. Go ahead and you can speak.
Sure. So I have a few opening remarks. So first, good evening, everyone. Thanks for the invitation to be here. My name is Rob Arinsky. I'm the manager of the safety division here at the PUC in the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement. So I was asked to attend this meeting by our chairman, Gladys Dutrieuille, since I serve as the safety manager for the pipeline safety division of the commission. And my team of safety engineers inspects and communicates with Energy Transfer at Sunoco and their contractors on a regular basis, really almost daily. Chairman Dutrieuille and the entire commission recognize the importance of discussions about safety matters. I come to this meeting tonight with open eyes and ears, keen to hear and see more about your concerns. Our team of safety engineers and investigators is constantly gathering information. And that's really the foundation of our work. That's really what we do on a regular basis, day to day, whether it's with Sunoco Energy Transfer or any company. And it's the backbone of our recommendations and actions. And I can't stress this enough that we conduct evidence-based investigations. We go into each one looking for the evidence, and that steers each investigation that we have. So as a clear disclaimer, any of my comments or statements this evening are my opinion, and they're based on my experience and training and are not the official position of the PUC. So while my primary role tonight here is to listen and relay your concerns to my safety division and the commission leadership, I do want to give you an overview of the PUC safety operations because much of that happens kind of behind the scenes. And I'm not here tonight to answer your questions directly. As I mentioned initially, I work in the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement. It's abbreviated I&E. So I&E is a separate, independent investigative and prosecutory bureau within the PUC. I&E has several levels of enforcement. Minor violations are handled in-house between the safety division and the operators. If an I&E investigation substantiates significant violations, I&E takes actions either by filing a formal complaint or initiating a settlement discussion that may culminate in a settlement agreement. Investigations that do not substantiate violations are terminated. So enforcement attorneys and I&E handle pipeline safety cases, and I&E serves as the commission's safety experts. The safety division is comprised of 3 separate sections. There's the pipeline group, which is what we're here to talk about today. There's an electric safety group and a damage prevention or PA1 call enforcement group. I manage all 3 of these groups, and there is at least 1 supervisor assigned to each. In pipeline, we have 4 supervisors, and they're located regionally throughout the Commonwealth. We have 1 in Western PA, 1 in the Harrisburg area, one in southeastern greater Philadelphia area, and one up north, up towards the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre area. So we also have regionalized engineers inspectors spread throughout the state. We have 17 engineer inspectors, and we're set to hire several more this year. So each member of our team has an engineering degree and trained by the federal government. Federal government's Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, or PHMSA. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that before. PHMSA has requirements that each inspector working for state program is qualified. There's about 26 classes, each approximately a week long, that each inspector must attend to qualify to perform certain inspections. So inspectors also receive additional training outside of those classes. The Pipeline Safety Division is governed by a specific set of guidelines, including in the federal regulations 49 CFR 195 for hazardous liquids, as well as other applicable provisions of the PA Public Utility Code. We serve as a registered agent for PHMSA, and in general, pipeline safety regulations enforced by I&E apply to pipeline operators, distribution companies, class 2, 3, and 4 gas gathering lines, intrastate gas and hazardous liquid pipelines, and public utilities. So PHMSA is a federal agency housed in the US DOT Department of Transportation. The PUC Safety Division is contracted by them to enforce the federal regulations in Pennsylvania. PHMSA retains jurisdiction to conduct inspections in Pennsylvania on interstate pipelines. So not every line in Pennsylvania is inspected by us. PHMSA retains jurisdiction to inspect interstate pipelines. I'll get back to this later, but PHMSA has jurisdiction to regulate Sunoco Energy Transfer hazardous liquid lines here in Pennsylvania, including ME2 and 2X and ME1. I&E Safety regulates them also as a public utility. So they're actually inspected twice for the same set of regulations. So the safety division has 4 programs. We have a natural gas program, we have a hazardous liquid program, we have an underground storage program, and a damage prevention enforcement program. So we regulate approximately 147 gas operators, 6 hazardous liquid operators, 3 liquefied natural gas operators, and 4 underground storage operators. And it's important to note that each of these operators may have multiple facilities, meaning they may have different shops or different areas, and we have to inspect those, separately from their other facilities. There's a total of about 48,000 miles of distribution pipeline, 2.9 million customers served in Pennsylvania, 1,200 miles of transmission line, and approximately 1,000 miles of jurisdictional gathering lines. We have about 1,700 miles of hazardous liquid pipelines under our jurisdiction, including Sunoco. As a public utility transporting hazardous liquid, I&E has jurisdiction over Sunoco / energy transfer partners. So we inspect Sunoco to determine whether a company has complied with federal regs. So since Sunoco transports hazardous liquid, Part 195 of the Hazardous Code applies. As I mentioned earlier, these lines are classified as interstate and also have jurisdiction. PHMSA also has jurisdiction and enforces the same federal code. So both I&E PHMSA are conducting construction inspections at ME2 and 2X. We do communicate with PHMSA regularly. Operators are required to pressure test the lines at or above the MOP for that line. It's actually above the MOP of that line. And Subpart E talks about construction. Construction requirements are in Subpart D. So testing is Subpart E. Subpart C covers the design requirements for a pipeline. Subpart F of the federal regulations talks about the O&M requirements, operation and maintenance requirements, including integrity management, public awareness, damage prevention, and control room. Subpart G is the operator qualification, and Subpart H deals with corrosion control. So many of the concerns during construction on the Mariner East project have been geologic in nature and include subsidence, sinkholes, and some slides. So to assist in our review of these geologic hazards, we have the I&E retain the services of ARM Group. ARM as a team of scientists and engineers with geotechnical expertise and have offices dispersed across the southern tier of the Commonwealth to help us inspect these for the ME2 and ME2X construction. So I&E's conducted over 160 inspections on Mariner East in the last 3 years, and probably at least 100 meetings with the company and other state agencies. So far I told you a lot of what we do. Now I'm also going to talk about some things that do not reside under the purview of the commission or I&E. Public Utility Commission is not granted authority to regulate location of natural gas or hazardous liquid pipelines through pipeline siting. The commission has no siting regulation or authority for pipelines. And the commission does not primarily regulate environmental issues or well water or aquifer quality. As you know, specific environmental concerns should be directed to PADEP. My point here is some of your concerns tonight may not be within the scope of I&E's authority. However, we're here tonight to hear your concerns and experiences of the residents in this area. And as part of my attendance, the commission requests that each person who testifies at this event provide their name and address and contact information so we can follow up if necessary. A lot of the information we get is from public officials and residents and different people throughout the Commonwealth. So we do appreciate that information. So with that, the Bureau does have an ongoing number of ongoing investigations here related to these matters, and we're just not going to be able to comment specifically on any details of those issues tonight. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So our first speaker, if you go to the next screen, please, thank you, is Craig Stevens. He's from Susquehanna County. Go ahead, Craig.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm Craig Stevens. I own a 6th-generation, 188-year-old property in Silver Lake Township, Susquehanna County, near Montrose. I'm the ghost of pipelines past. That's what I'm going to be speaking about this evening. First of all, I had the laser midstream line, 16-inch gas line, was going to be forced on my property by the Public Utility Commission, allowing laser midstream to do it back in 2010. We fought it and we won because they could not prove that the gas was going to go to us. So they actually they lost their public utility status. I'm wondering why Mariner East got a public utility. I know that they were switched in 2014 from east to west to east, or vice versa. And so what I want to cover is, those are my slides in the background. During the process of installing my 16-inch gas pipeline, not on my property, but behind my house, Laser Midstream proceeded to blow a 10-foot diameter hole out on July 29, 2011, called an IRTS. They called it a blowout. The DEP called it an IRTS. We ended up watching them 7 more times blow out, or IRTS, in my backyard. As far as I know, I have the most IRTSs of anybody in the Commonwealth. If you had more than 8, raise your hand, because I haven't heard of it. So this happened under Secretary Hanger and Governor Rendell started, then Secretary Crancer and Governor Corbett. We brought this to their attention. This is what my creek water ended up looking like. Just so I can show you, I'm going to put light behind it. That swirly stuff, that was diesel. We know it was diesel because when the bentonite clay comes to the surface, it has a sheen on it when it gets wet. So don't let anybody tell you this is straight bentonite clay they're using. That is a ridiculous statement. It is untrue. I will tell you that after watching this process behind my house, and they went up to my 115-acre property and proceeded to demolish it too. 1,200 feet of the pipeline were trenched, and 1,200 feet was bored under a wetland. Even the wetland had seepage come up after the pipeline was installed, and I found the same spots of the bentonite clay, which had a diesel sheen on it. So We found out that they drove 20 truckloads of 5,000 gallons of liquid of unknown origin and dumped it on my private property. They actually made a straining bunker on my property and dumped it. I'm telling you these things because all of this was brought to the attention of every person in charge of pipeline installation in the Commonwealth, from the PUC to the DEP to Fish and Boat to the governor's office to everyone, and nothing was done about it. Matter of fact, they let them complete it by actually damming the creek they're showing you. Right? See that's what happens right there. Diesel sheen comes up. You can't fake that. Bentonite clay does not make a diesel sheen. So all these pictures are real. They were taken with my own camera and taken in my own backyard. They turned my pristine trout stream into the Mississippi mud. That right there is called Max Gel. It's illegal for that to touch the ground. It soaks up the chemicals from the water. What I wanted to warn everybody about tonight is everybody that was in charge was warned. Everybody should have known this, from the PUC to the DEP to the governor's office. I have taken this slide presentation to 13 different states and talked to governors on this. This is a private property issue. This is a contamination issue. None of it has been changed now. I'm watching what happened at Mariner East. I'm not a soothsayer, don't have a crystal ball, but I was able to do the same thing about Mountain Valley Pipeline and Atlantic Coast Pipeline. I went and showed them the pictures and the exact same thing happened. So I stand with my neighbors along the Mariner East route from east to west. And I will tell you, none of them are lying. Yes, they had water contamination. I did too. Yes, they had spills. Yes, there are chemicals in this water. It should be tested whenever there's any kind of a release. It should be tested. And I just wanted to make sure everyone knew. That's 2011. Mine happened before they even thought about the Mariner East, and it's still happening today. So let's get our people together and figure out how to solve this problem by stopping allowing this happening until we can assure the people along these routes that they are safe, that they can be installed without problems, which it looks like has been an impossible task in Pennsylvania. Thank you for allowing me to take the time to speak tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Next, we have Ralph Bloom. Mr. Bloom, if you'd like to go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Ralph Bloom. I live at 43 Wildwood Road, Newville, Pennsylvania, Cumberland County. Phone number is 717-776-5237 if anybody wants to call me. They took my property by eminent domain. Didn't pay me very much, claimed twice as much what they actually did. And they've stripped the topsoil off, ran the water bars, put water bars in to run the water over towards my house, which is not on the right of way. And they contaminated my well with iron bacteria. The picture there on the left, that is iron bacteria waste out of my well water, and couldn't drink it. It actually eat through the pipe that went from the well to the house. And they offered me a repair. They said, we'll put a water buffalo in if you sign this paper that says that we didn't cause any of your trouble. Needless to say, I don't have a water buffalo. I had to drill a new well. The picture on the right is from the new well. It's got so much sulfur and contaminants in it that it isn't fit to drink. I've spent another $3,000 on equipment. It's cleared up some, but I still can't drink it. Take a cup of water, little black bubbles and black stuff floating around in it all through it. It just completely ruined our life. I showered in it. My wife wouldn't, probably caused her death, but that's besides the point right now. We can't prove it. They've ruined my yard. They cut down a bunch of trees. They claim they're not paying for them. When they cut the trees down, they had 3 constables and three state police to keep me from stopping them from doing it. So I must look pretty tough. I do have a gun shop, but I know better than to cause trouble for them because it would take my life's livelihood away from me. But they caused lots of troubles. There was another picture here, I think, of part of the, there's the hole where they ran the water to. That is 80 feet from a well. And the well was a hand-dug well, no casing in it. And it was perfectly good water for 75 years while I lived here. And it isn't fit now to spray the crops with. And they have supposedly finished up on my property, restored everything better than new, according to the head guy from DEP. But I couldn't get it. I got so many pictures, I couldn't even send them all. There's nothing coming up. Nothing coming up in my field but weeds. My yard's got holes and ruts, and they contaminated my field with foxtail, which is poisonous to horses and other animals. And they claim now that I seeded it with that. I don't know where to buy the foxtail seed, but we know how they did it, and they're trying to get out of it. I've had my eminent domain hearing. We do not know what the results are yet. We hope something's going to come up in the next week or two. They claim they didn't do any damage, but I sure got enough pictures to show it. And it's been life around here for the last 4 years without good water. Has been rough, and it's just not right. I went to the DEP, complained to them. I have names for the people I talked to. He said, we can't do nothing unless you can prove that they did it. Well, I had it cost $2,300 for a hydrologist to come and show why they contaminated it. And now they come along with their hydrologist and said, that's not right. But they were never here. The hydrologist I hired, he come out and took samples and pictures and seen what was going on, but their guy was never here. If he was, they snuck on at night. But basically, that's probably all I really have to say right now about the water problems and what they've done to me. We are suing them on top of the water problem. Since they did it off the right of way, is going to be a civil case. That's going to come up after we get our eminent domain case done. Because being they contaminated the water off the right of way, that's trespassing. And so we're going to see what we can get them. Not after money, just after punishment. Also, Wilmer Baker, your name probably rings a bell to some of you folks. He has got another set of charges filed with the PUC about inadvertent returns, having stuff going through his yard. And he's also put in a claim for my water along with it, because trying to keep everybody shook up as much as we can. That's about all I got.
Thank you. Thank you, Ralph. Next, we have Erica Tarr from Delaware County. Erica?
Yes. Hi. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So my name is Erica Tarr. I live on Middletown Road in Glen Mills, Pennsylvania. It's Edgemont Township. Our original well was impacted during construction of the 16-inch pilot for the Mariner East 2 pipeline. There was an inadvertent return on the drill site behind our property in June of 2019. The inadvertent return required weeks of cleanup, which included sucking groundwater using vac trucks and hauling truck loads of the subsurface water away from the site. Prior to that event, our well water was clean, clear, and potable. During and after the cleanup, the water changed in quality and quantity. And ultimately, the well became inoperable. Our only option was to drill a new well, as we do not have access to public water where we live. We drilled a new well and shortly after discovered that the new well was testing positive for volatile organic compounds, specifically toluene and MTBE, methyl tertiary butyl ether. After months of research, we found out that the Mariner East 1 pipeline had ruptured on the property behind ours in 1992, leaking tens of thousands of gallons of jet fuel onto that property and into an adjacent pond and stream. That property was remediated from 1992 through 1994, but there were still low levels of contaminants present upon completion of remediation, toluene being one of them. Prior to construction of the Mariner East 2, Sunoco Energy Transfer sent GES to do pre-drilling testing on the property surrounding the drill site. These pre-drilling water studies revealed that toluene was present in the pond of the property where the Mariner East 1 had ruptured and leaked the jet fuel, and that MTBE, an additive to fuel, was detected in a neighboring property owner's well. I'm assuming that Sunoco Energy Transfer had shared these pre-drilling water results with the DEP prior to receiving the permits to drill, but I'm not certain, or I'm not privy to those details. If they did indeed share these results, the DEP chose to allow Sunoco Energy Transfer to drill directly through the contamination and remediation site from the 1992 pipeline rupture. They were drilling along the same right-of-way as the Mariner East 1. A third property owner's well tested positive for MTBE in March of 2019. Sunoco Energy Transfer was made aware by that property owner. Our new well tested positive for toluene in October of 2019. Drilling for the Mariner East 2 resumed in November of 2019 for the 20-inch pilot. After that drilling was completed, our new well was not only testing positive for toluene, but also MTBE. The property owner, who only had MTBE present during the 16-inch pipe construction, began testing positive for toluene after they drilled the 20-inch pipe. We believe that the horizontal directional drilling for the Mariner East 2 pipeline has impacted the underground aquifers, which caused the legacy contaminants that have been sitting underground to migrate. Sunoco Energy Transfer has not taken any accountability. The DEP has confirmed the contamination, but they have closed their investigation as to how our aquifer became contaminated. We, as private property owners, are responsible for proving the contamination before we can take any legal action against Sunoco Energy Transfer. In order to prove the contamination, underground hydrogeological studies would need to be performed, which would cost $50,000 to $100,000. Financially, we can't afford to perform these studies on our own. We were hopeful that the DEP would assist us, but they are refusing to reopen the investigation into the 1992 contamination site and our current water contamination. For over a year, we have lived with an atrocious water supply. In addition to drilling the new well, we had to install multiple pieces of equipment to treat the contaminated water. While the VOCs are being removed post-treatment, the water is still utterly disgusting and unpredictable. The water is so harsh, it causes the equipment to fail almost weekly. If it was any other property, the well company has told us that they would deem the well inoperable and drill another well. The problem is that we don't know where on our property has contamination, at what levels underground the contamination exists, etc. While we would love nothing more than to obtain a new water supply, we cannot financially just drill new wells on the property until we possibly find clean water, because that may be impossible. It is not fair for my family to have to live like this. We are in constant crisis. We can't trust our current well water, and we can't move on from this nightmare until we get a new water supply. We haven't received assistance, and at this point, it's pointing fingers. The DEP, contact the PUC. We just want someone to say this is not acceptable. These people need to be held accountable. We would like in public water, because we feel like that's our permanent solution. But at this point, we've not gotten anywhere, and it's very disheartening and very discouraging. And I could go on for days and tell you what it's really like to live without clean water, with having to brush your teeth with bottled waters. I can't bathe my child. We have to bring laundry and dirty dishes to our families' homes. The list goes on. Everyone who has public water takes for granted having a clean water supply. So that's all we're asking for. We just need a clean water supply.
Thank you so much, Erica. Next, we have Doug Lorenz.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. I would like to give a little information about Snitz Creek in Lebanon County. Snitz Creek in Lebanon County is a prime example of a beautiful and clear wild trout stream. Sunoco has been trying to install under Snitz Creek 2 pipelines for its Mariner East project using horizontal directional drilling. The result of drilling has been repeated discharges of industrial waste drilling mud into the Snitz Creek. Sunoco has already paid civil penalties for 8 spills in connection with the construction of the 20-inch pipeline in 2017 and 18. Those fines were obviously no deterrent to this year's repeated violations. Sunoco proposed to lengthen and deepen the drill path for the 16-inch pipeline, but told DEP that the discharges should still be expected. The drilling restarted in May and the repeated pattern of discharges resumed. This year alone, DEP has issued 6 violations of notices for discharges of drilling mud, called inadvertent returns in Snitz Creek between August 13 and October 19. The geology at Snitz Creek is simply not suitable for HDD. The drill path lies within a porous karst limestone geology characterized by fractures, voids, solution channels, cavities, and subsidence features. During the drilling process, when there is a loss of pressure, thousands of gallons of drilling mud are lost through limestone karst features and travels off the easement. The mud will rise to the ground surface, discharging into streams and wetlands, which are called the IRs. To correct this problem, Sunoco injects grout into the borehole and then re-drills the borehole with the hope that the grout has sealed the limestone. The grout also will travel into the bedrock and off the easement just as the drilling mud does. It often takes multiple attempts at grouting before Sunoco can advance the drill bit. Between May 20 through August 27th this year, Sunoco experienced 32 pressure drops, resulting in the loss of thousands upon thousands of gallons of drilling mud and grout. Amazingly, only reported 20 gallons of discharged drilling mud into the creek during that period. On October 21, DEP issued its latest NOV to Sunoco for the discharge, get this, of 200 gallons of drilling mud. Also, an inspection at the site revealed that an illegal sandbag dam had been constructed and a corrugated plastic pipe had been installed for a distance of over 200 feet and divert the creek. You can see that in the picture on the left. If you blow it up, you can see the corrugated pipe. DEP announced that it would schedule a hearing to determine if Sunoco has failed to comply or lacks the intention to comply with the law. DEP will determine whether to withhold issuance, renewal, or amendment of permits. This site is currently shuttered. How many violations should Sunoco be allowed before DEP recognizes that enough is enough? Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Next, we have Patrick Robinson. Patrick, he's from Indiana County.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Robinson. I'm at 1516 Hutchison Hollow Road, New Florence, Pennsylvania. That's in Indiana County. I'm here to talk about 2 key issues with the Mariner 2 pipeline. First one is about my land not being returned to the way it was prior to construction. And the second is about our drinking water. The pipeline crosses my commercial ground. They have backfilled rock and other materials and have changed the way the water drains onto it. There has been 5 major slides on the ground adjacent coming down the hill. They have constructed a new holding pond, which now drains onto my property, causing the wetlands. They have not returned the property to the way it looked prior to construction. As you see in the photographs in front of you, this is the way it looked prior to construction in 2015. Over the past 4 years, we've had nothing but grief from Sunoco and its subcontractors. Everything from them urinating and defecating on the road in front of my house to threatening me with bodily harm out on the street, in the local towns, and on the property. The second issue is my drinking water. We lost most of our drinking water within a day of them digging the pipeline across the hollow. I was told by Sunoco representatives that if we would not, they would not do anything unless we signed a release stating that they were not the cause. We've lived in this house for 17 years and always had a lot of good drinking water. After they cut across the hollow, we lost over 120 feet of column in our well. Sunoco's own testing of our well proved that it ran dry after 37 gallons of water, and the water was contaminated. They tested our water 3 times over the next 2-year period, and it still came up bad. The well never did recover pre-construction quality or quantity. I have pictures that I submitted here. If we could, this is the way it looks now after they've claimed that they've reclaimed it. As you can see, they left the ramp in it. It looks totally different from pre-construction. Can we move on? All right. In these pictures, you can see the backfill of the limestone and the holding pond that they just decided to stop in the middle of the property. And now it actually floods the rest of my commercial ground. Can we move on? This is our water now. This is my actual drinking water to my house. As you can see, this is nothing that you want to drink anymore. For 3.5 years, this is the way our water is. It tears up the pump. And if you want any more information, please contact me. I have hundreds of photographs. I can share slides, everything else. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Next, we have Chris P.K. DeGulia.
Julio, thank you. Can you hear me?
Sorry, PK. Yes.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm a resident of Upper Euclid Township in Chester County, Pennsylvania. I'm a scientist by education and training. I'm also a water protector. I'm a watchdog for my community, and I adhere to good practice in science and knowing my rights. I'm a community advocate. I've worked for the bureaucracy, and I know what it means to swear an oath. I see public service violating criminal laws, and therefore these people are no longer immune. I seek to hold people accountable. When I took my oath, I knew what it meant. And so here's what I'm talking about as a scientist. Our elected officials continually recite that our hands are tied, right? I know that's a lie. The reason why I know that is we have access to amazing resources in our communities, in our scientific communities. Knowledge is very readily accessible on the internet, and it's easy to access for anybody, right? So to access that and to seek what we are as truth seekers, you just have to have the drive to seek truth at any time. So we have also the ability as elected officials to inform and spread information and knowledge with little effort. So what I want to get to here quickly is, and excuse my notes. Basically what I've seen as a scientist, okay, is that according to the EPA, actually, let's go with the DEP. So the DEP's mission statement, right? It talks about protecting the air and water of Pennsylvanians, right? And in order to do that, it means within good scientific practice. And in order to do that, you would have to do what's called groundwater studies, impact studies. Now, the DEP is issuing 105 permits to go across waterways and whatnot. And in what we all know, according to the Fish and Game and according to Penn State University Extension, that water is all connected. And groundwater, 2/3 of Pennsylvania's groundwater goes into streams. And if the clean water laws are protecting streams and 2/3 of the groundwater, which DEP is permitting Sunoco to go through horizontal directional drilling, which is now clearly impacting our groundwater. How are they able to say that they know that this is not going to impact, for example, me as a well owner who has a contaminated well here near Marsh Creek Lake where they were drilling? Okay, so I'm a watchdog for my community. I do documentations. You know, I could talk about my drone videos and what I do, but what I'm really mad about right now is it became personal to me because my neighborhood has a problem with some bacteriological, but we have no ability to protect our well because nobody's telling us prior to drilling that they're going to infiltrate the groundwater, which feeds my well. And if I have to protect the health and safety of my well, why is my state not telling us openly? I don't want to go to their website and seek it. Mainly when we're talking about 2/3 of our groundwater is protected by the Clean Streams. And I don't understand what's going on with the DEP. If they are literally to protect our water and air, and they are sitting there permitting a company to do an abnormally hazardous process through that very unique hydrogeologic area without proper groundwater impact assessments, then they are not qualified to be permitting us this process in any sort of sense. Because what we have a right to do is every elected official has the right to do a scientific study. Might cost money, but guess what? Your hands aren't tied. So what we need, as Ralph Bloom or Erica Tars or me, what we're asking for is the ability to protect our water. Like, we're not giving any free, prior, informed consent. One of my favorite words. Thank you, Tammy, by the way, from PSR. Very good. So why is our hands are tied a lie to me? Because basically, this is a blatant disregard for the Constitution, health, and safety of the people. We have Article 1, Section 27, right? The Pennsylvania State Constitution. This is a blatant disregard through manipulation of laws, using antiquated languages, changing words, and confusion. And what we don't have is the money and lawyers to protect ourselves. And by the way, one well owner is not able to fight Goliath. So as a well owner, what my problem is and why I do watchdogging and help people like Ralph Bloom, like Erica Tar, and as a scientist and analytical chemist who protects water, who knows and understands the analyses in chemistry and water. Why do I do this watchdog thing? It's because nobody else is doing it for us. Nobody's helping us. So what happens is community has to stand up for each other, and I don't get paid for any of this. So my testimony is I'm sick and tired of this. Use good practice in science. Sir, Rob, I heard you say you use good practice in investigations. I would ask all of the agencies to do the same, because it's pretty clear what good practice is. When you don't have the data, why can you tell me and my water hasn't been harmed by them? Nobody can tell me that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, PK. Next, we have Ellen Gerhardt. Ellen?
Hi. Ellen Gerhardt, 15357 Trough Creek Valley Pike, Huntington, Pennsylvania, 16652. We actually live in Union Township in Huntington County. We've always been interested in nature and ecology, and that was one of the reasons why we purchased property in Huntington County. We decided to keep the property as natural as possible and truly be a part of Penn's Woods. Now, you would think that an agency that's called the Department of Environmental Protection would have a vested interest in protecting Penn's Woods and its streams and aquifers, but we found that was not the case. Applications for the 102 and 105 permits for the Mariner 2 and 2X pipelines were granted in 2017. Although there were multiple errors across multiple counties in all of these applications. In our case, the wetlands that Sunoco trenched through were deemed to be emergent, which is a designation that means that only shrubs and grasses grow there. We argued that the over 150 trees that they cut down qualified the wetlands as forested, which would require a completely different mitigation. The Environmental Hearing Board and Judge Labruscus agreed with us. The major finding that came out of that case was that the DEP failed to verify the information on the applications. And when you think of the multiple violations that occurred on just the 3 acres of our property that were impacted, extrapolate that to the 350 miles of pipeline that this project covers. The major finding that came, when concerns have come up about protecting streams, aquifers, forests, etc., the DEP has consistently sided with the fossil fuel industry. From the rubber stamping at the Pipeline Infrastructure Task Force meeting to the construction of fracking wells, pipelines, and refineries, the DEP has failed to live up to its name and obligation under the PA Constitution. It's fined companies, but only after obvious major incidents. And these fines amounted to little more than slaps on the wrist. None of this fine money was used to mitigate the harm done to both the environment and the people living here. If DEP had truly done its job of protecting the environment, these projects would have been shut down long ago. Instead of being proactive, the DEP has been reactive. It's time for the DEP to uphold Article 1, Section 27 of our state constitution, the Environmental Rights Amendment. The people have a right to clean water, clean air, pure water, and to the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all the people, including generations yet to come. As trustee of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for the benefit of the people. DEP, do your job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. And next we have Kim Van Fleet.
Hi, I'm Kim Van Fleet.
Kim, hold on just a second. This is George. I think speakers are not able to see my signs. So what I'm going to do from now on is at the 30-second mark, I will very quickly say 30 seconds. And then at the 3-minute mark, I will say time's up. And just so that you know that, what the timing is. Sorry to interrupt.
George, I've been seeing your signs. I've got it on the grid so I can see.
Okay.
So anyhow, my name is Kim Van Fleet. I now live at 429 Pisgah State Road, Shermansdale, Pennsylvania in Perry County, because several years ago, my husband and I decided that we no longer wanted to live next to the Sunoco Mariner 1, 2, and 2X pipelines. Prior to that, we lived at 1705 McClure's Gap Road in Lower Frankford Township, Cumberland County. We were the renters and caretakers there at that property for 40 years. We had an excellent relationship with our landlord and his son. They were co-owners of the property. One of our major complaints was that in all the years we lived there, we never got one mailing from Sunoco talking about pipeline safety, issues, anything going on. The only communication we got from Sunoco was when our landlord would make photocopies of publications that he would get. And we would get one of those maybe once every 5 years. However, the Buckeye pipeline was also on the property. Our house sat between. The Sunoco line was 150 foot to the east. The Buckeye pipeline was about 60 foot to the west. We had a good communication with the guys from Buckeye. They'd come up, they'd come to the door, they'd bring us flyers, we'd chat, they'd tell us exactly what was going on with the pipeline. If there were any issues with the pipeline, they took care of it right away. In the fall of 2014, a co-worker of mine here at Dickinson College received a mailing from Sunoco in her mailbox about how to identify pipeline leaks and what to do if that should occur. She checked into it and found out that Sunoco did indeed plan to run or reverse the flow of the Mariner 1 pipeline, the old 80-plus-year-old pipe that was running gas from east to west and reverse the flow from west to east, so they could pump natural gas liquids from the Marcellus and Utica shales. So she checked around with her other neighbors to see if they got a flyer. The only people that got a flyer warning of this, got it, George, is ones that lived within the impact radius. Nobody else got it in the neighborhood. So quickly went on the fast track, learned what I could about pipeline safety, checked into Sunoco's record, and found that they had a total disregard for human health and safety as the bottom line. My husband was also a hazmat worker for 15 years. He's got multiple certifications, and he has a copious amount of training. And between the two of us, we decided that we could not live within the impact zone of that pipeline, considering the disregard that that company had for everybody else. It took us 1.5 years to find a house that was outside of a 1-mile evacuation zone for any pipeline in South Central Pennsylvania. Luckily, we found a place. We moved there in July of 2019, but we feel a little guilty because we had the opportunity and the financial resources to move. Other renters don't. and people with low income, fixed income that are property owners do not have that capability. And it is not fair and it is not right that renters and people of low income should have to suffer because of greed of another company. It's wrong. We have rights as citizens and those rights need to be respected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. Next, we have Nicole Gallo.
Hi, my name's Nicole Gallo. I'm at 1314 Dunsinane Drive in Westchester. And this is very heartbreaking to hear these stories. My experience is very similar to Kim's in that I moved to this area in 2019 and there was no current construction on the pipeline. So I was not aware that the pipeline was even close to my home. It's about 450 feet from my backyard. My house is otherwise perfect. It's in a picture perfect neighborhood. I love my house. But when they started construction, I think it was in March of 2019 on Ship Road, I actually thought they were expanding the road until someone told me, a neighbor told me. I immediately started researching. I know nothing about pipelines in general or pipelines that carry flammable gases. The more I researched, the more general research I did, the more alarmed I became. If my children were young, I think I would move immediately. As it stands now, I will probably not move immediately, but I do think as much as I love this home and this neighborhood, I think I will move because I'm very, very uncomfortable living here. It causes me a tremendous amount of anxiety. I have not, similar to Kim, received notifications or information on how to safely evacuate, if there is a way to safely evacuate. These gases are flammable. They are not able to be detected by smell, taste. I don't even know how they would know if there was a leak. I found that Sunoco has the third worst safety record in the industry. I also work for IBM and took some of the information I found online and brought it to our civil engineers, and they looked at it and were very shocked. They seemed to think that most of the permits and things of that nature were granted with the minimum amount of safety precautions and environmental precautions, which was very, very distressing to me. In the past year, I've submitted comments to Governor Wolf's office, the PUC, to West Whiteland Township, and similar to what PK said, everybody says that their hands are tied. I know that West Whiteland has tried to enforce some construction times limits, which is helpful because I work from home. I've always worked from home, even pre-COVID. And when it's warm out, I cannot even open my door or back windows because it's so loud. And occasionally it was starting very, very early in the morning. That West Whiteland has worked on that, but even so, to not be able to open my own back door in the summer is not a good thing. Lastly, I used to visit Marsh Creek to go kayaking, and after the recent spillage there, I'm not sure that I'm comfortable going there. So thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing us to speak up.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Next, we have Jerry McMullen. Jerry.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can, Jerry. Thank you.
Okay. And thanks to my fellow presenters for sharing their stories. My name is Jerry McMullen. My wife and I have lived at 200 Hillside Drive, Exton, in Chester County for 45 years. The 88-year-old Mariner East 1 pipeline, the 83-year-old 12-inch workaround pipeline, and the path for Mariner East 2 and 2X are within 65 feet of our home. I'm here to testify because Sunoco's engineering strategies and construction practices have proven to be problematic and potentially life-threatening in our area. The number of Sunoco mistakes, mishaps, and misrepresentations causes me to have serious concerns for the health, safety, and welfare of my family and community. There's a long list of problems created by Sunoco while trying to lay pipe through Chester County. Incidents that have disrupted and or threatened lives include April 2017, a Mariner East 1 leak was detected by a man walking his dog in Morgantown. The PUC BINE complaint noted a statewide concern with Sunoco's corrosion control program and the soundness of their engineering practices with respect to cathodic protection. June 2017, Sunoco's Shone Road drill hit an aquifer, causing water quality problems and the loss of wells. November 2017, Sunoco's drilling created sinkholes in the backyards of homes on Lisa Drive. March 2018, 2 more sinkholes developed near Lisa Drive. January 2019, a sinkhole developed on Lisa Drive exposing the active Mariner East 1 pipeline. And I think I saw a picture of that earlier here. August 2020, an inadvertent return of approximately 8,000 gallons of drilling mud polluted Marsh Creek Lake, a recreation area and source of drinking water. August 2020, Sunoco for a 3rd time punctured an aquifer near Shone Road, releasing an estimated 250,000 gallons of water per day. October 2020, Statewide Impact reported that a professional geologist turned whistleblower said that Sunoco prevented him and other geologists from inspecting and reporting on dangerous subsidence or sinkholes during construction. Specifically, the whistleblower said that a sinkhole caused by pipeline construction in East Goshen Township, Chester County, threatened the integrity of operational lines carrying highly volatile explosive materials. I have attended legislative meetings in Harrisburg where Sunoco was described as a rogue company. My partial list of incidents across the 23-mile segment of Chester County is a small part of the 320-mile Mariner East saga. There are many stories and they raise important questions. Why are there so many engineering miscalculations and construction mishaps with the Mariner East project? Can we trust Sunoco Energy Transfer Partners? And most importantly, is the safety of Pennsylvanians being put unnecessarily at risk? At another level, we have to ask why Governor Wolf has turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to the problems and risks associated with this flawed product and this flawed project. And why are the PUC and DEP not more assertive in protecting our health, safety, and welfare? Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Patrick. So a lot of folks have testified about water impacts. People have testified about inadvertent returns, about safety issues, and this is a map done by Frac Tracker that shows the inadvertent returns that have happened along the Mariner East pipeline. We also posted in the chat a link to Frac Tracker's estimate of schools near the Mariner East pipeline. And so I wanted to direct you to these resources because these are important resources for us as citizens to know where these inadvertent returns are, where these schools are located that are in close proximity to the Mariner East pipeline, so we can advocate for safety of our residents and our children. Patrick, if you can go to the next screen. And what is going to feed the Mariner East pipeline? This is the DEP's map of the current unconventional natural gas development in our side of the state here in Westmoreland County and in Washington County, where the Mariner East pipeline is starting. So it goes from our side of the state, across the state, through the 17 counties over to the eastern side of the state. And so this is what's going to feed that pipeline. And so the impacts to the construction of the pipeline have been significant and will continue to be, if not stopped, significant to the people that live along the pipeline route. However, for years and decades to come, folks on the other side of the state will also have to deal with the fracking impacts to feed this pipeline. So we want to urge the DEP and Governor Wolf and the PUC to stop this pipeline and to try to take steps to restore some of the damage that has been done from this pipeline for the safety of the Pennsylvanians. We're going to open up the floor now for additional public comments. We understand that there might be people that did not sign up to speak, did not have that opportunity, and we want to give them a chance to speak now. Again, you'll have the same criteria as other folks. So if you want to speak and have not had a chance to do so, please put your name in the chat right now, and we're going to go ahead and call those names one by one. I want to thank the representative from the PUC for coming tonight. You were the only agency that was able to make it. Governor Wolf's office did return our invitation, but similar to the comments that many of the residents have made, the DEP is falling down on the job again, not attending a hearing where people have an opportunity to speak and tell the stories of the damage that has been done to their property. So if anyone would like to speak at this time, please put your name in the chat. We'll give it a couple minutes for folks that are attending.
I see that Chuck Henry has put his name in as wanting to say something.
Great. Thank you, Chuck. If you could go ahead and take yourself off mute, and George will start your time.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So yeah, I want to tell people about not only that they're clearing trees that are like in my backyard where my son's tree house was torn down, a base was torn down for them, but the wildlife, everything like that. So how, as a parent, can I say to my son, you know, I'm not looking for, you know, mental therapy here, but how can we keep on telling our kids this is great, they're doing everything, and then having all these big machineries coming in and teaching our kids when they're homeschooled and it's so loud? What's going to go on? How long is it going to go on for? Oh, I'm done. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you very much, Chuck.
No, but they tore down like trees that are 10 to 12, you know, PK knows it, 10 to 12 trees that are 200 years old behind my house. It's just, and they have no regard. Not only that, these people that come up from Texas, Mississippi, they have no regard for us up here. They're cowboys. They're ignorant to us.
So, Chuck, did your son, did he get his treehouse torn down?
Yes. He was supposed to actually speak tonight, but since he's 10, he got a little nervous, and he voices his opinion all the time. PK met him, Laura met him, and he was so upset when this was all happening. They had a base, nice little tree house, and then, you know, 4 weeks ago when they started tearing down all the trees, he was with this mom at the time, and then when he came back to me, I said, Derek, I'm not sure if you're going to be happy, but your treehouse is gone. The base is gone. There's nothing left. And he was devastated. All the other 8 kids that were in the community that built it and had a base and everything like that. And that's what he said he wanted to speak on it, but then he got cold feet. I can understand that as a 10-year-old, but these guys are just ruthless. And West Whiteland is not being honest with us. They're going to remove a few trees and blah, 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 but remove a few trees. It's just, it's unreal.
Thank you.
You know, I'm not a public speaker, so I'm not the best at it. So
That's okay, Chuck. You know, it comes from the heart, and that's what's important. So we appreciate you sharing your story.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, Julian, can I say something about Chuck real quick?
Sure,
Chuck is an amazing person for a watchdog who came out. Like, he came out and supported me like one day. He was just so, and his kid, I'm telling you, this kid was so sad, but he is like a warrior. You know, he knows what he's smart. So Chuck, and I mean, that's the support, community support. I love what you do, Chuck. Chuck, thank you for the support.
Thank you, PK, man. I love you. I love you. And I love what you do. You know that. I would do anything for you guys, but it gets me sick because these kids worked all summer, all spring, and, you know, they have their like little cliques and gangs and stuff. Our fort's better than your fort and stuff. And then these guys come down and just, it was devastating to them. It was, I couldn't believe it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
and thank you, PK.
Lynn Brown, would you like to speak? Are you there, Lynn?
Yes, I am. Hi.
Hi. Go ahead.
I am Lynn Brown. I live on Gradyville Road in Edgemont Township. I live right next to someone who owns 6 1/4 acres, I believe it is. His whole property is contaminated. And Sunoco went to them because they had made the spill years ago and told him they were sorry and now ship water into his house every week, ship it in, like, I mean, take cases of water into the house. I don't know what they do about showering. And I tried to get my well checked by Sunoco, telling them what happened to my neighbor. And they said, well, you're too far away. I thought, I'm 6 acres away. Like, it, you know, it just didn't make any sense to me. And now that I think about it, I'm thinking that all of that, as the years go by and I leave this house to my children, what are they going to be putting up with? And as if the ground can't move and water doesn't go in all different directions, it just is maddening. And I'm really happy for all the people who have discussed their heart-wrenching problems tonight. But I just wanted to share that story with you.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time? You can go ahead and put your name in the chat if you'd like to speak.
I'd like to say a word if I could.
Go ahead,
one topic that has not come up tonight that I think is really important is how unusual this pipeline is. It carries material that is quite unlike anything that's in any of the other pipelines in Pennsylvania. It's a liquid, but once it leaks, it becomes a gas, a low-lying gas because it's heavier than air, and it forms an explosive cloud. And because of that behavior, it's far riskier than a natural gas pipeline or a gasoline pipeline, any of the common pipelines that we see. It can form a cloud that can spread up to 1 mile in calm conditions and then be ignited if it encounters a source of ignition. So what we have is, depending on how many people are in that mile, there could be hundreds of people, there could be dozens of houses all set on fire at once. There is no way that any emergency response could cope with that. And as people have pointed out tonight, it's very difficult to detect a leak of this material. It's odorless, colorless, and so I think it's really important for people to understand that this pipeline is a far different matter than any of the other pipelines we deal with in the state. And I just felt like we couldn't leave this without making that distinction clear. Thanks.
And George, just to speak to that, I pulled up a resource from Frac Tracker. Again, they have wonderful resources on the Mariner East pipeline. There are an estimated 105,419 people living within the proposed Mariner East 2's 0.5 mile radius impact zone. That's a half mile. That is not an adequate projected impact radius, but that is a half mile. Think about how many people are within a mile.
Jillian, can I say one last thing?
Sure, Chuck.
Yes. I'm not sure if that's correct. I mean, I'm a medicinal chemist. It's not an odorless gas. I mean,
Yes, it is.
Oh, so they don't put any chemical in, like
No.
No,
No.
they're not
We would-
adding mercaptan to this.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
I
not.
stand corrected then.
Right.
Thank you.
Can I make a clarification real quick? There
Sure.
is a scent to butane, okay?
Yeah,
the truth.
that's
And
what I
there's
thought.
a minimal amount. And the two other products as they are not going to, you're gonna smell a difference in the atmosphere. Mainly you're gonna be pretty much passed out by them because it's gonna asphyxiate.
Right. There's no gas on the earth that doesn't have an odorless. Natural, yes, maybe, but yeah. Thanks, PK.
All right, chemical dude.
Love you, babe.
Mr. Robinson, did you want to say something else? I know that I saw you in the chat. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to state that by them putting this pipeline through, it has affected the groundwater. And some of us, like myself, we do not have extra aquifers. Like our second aquifer down has actually already been polluted by the mines or contaminated by the mine water. So there is no other option as far as drinking water or drilling another well. You know, it's either spring water or the first aquifer. And as far as their cathode protection, they actually wanted to come in and they wanted to drill a 300-foot well on my property for their cathode protection, which unfortunately would have put them through two aquifers, which would have caused the underlying aquifer, the second aquifer, to actually filter up into the first aquifer and even pollute it even worse. Due to the second aquifer around here is actually mine water. And there was only a thin layer, about 27 feet of clay, which separated the two aquifers. So, like, I don't think they've done proper studies, honestly. You know, I mean, how could you even think about doing something like that? You know, when it just doesn't make sense what they did, in plain words. And that's all. You know, if you want to contact me, I got tons of photographs, tons of everything from OSHA violations to movies. I give you a tour, whatever. Just contact me and I will help you out. And that's all I really want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Craig Stevens, did you want to make an additional comment?
Yeah, a couple things real quick. First of all, liquid is much more dangerous. Methane goes straight up unless the wind's blowing when it leaks, unless it ignites and it becomes a blowtorch. But I've got the pictures of the explosion that was in Westmoreland, and that house that melted, it burned down, was hundreds of feet away from the explosion, and that was methane. And the other house, it melted all the siding off. The person that did escape from the one house that burned was lucky to alive, although I heard it burned all his clothes off while he was running from it. So the fact that they put a butane, propane, and ethane pipes right next to each other, there is no way in hell that blast radius is a half a mile, because they're going to interact with each other. Once there's a fire explosion on one, it's going to open up the next one next to it and the next one. They will, and if you've seen what these look like, they start what is a blowtorch effect. And because you have 3, they could be pointing the blowtorches in multiple directions, which means this thing is going to look like one of those ground bloom flowers, the size of a Mack truck, launching 1,200 feet flames. And if you didn't see the pipeline that exploded and lit on fire in West Virginia, it melted asphalt that was hundreds of feet away. It burned the asphalt right off of a road. So if you
Craig, you're absolutely right. By the way, out in Center Valley, where my mom lives, blew a whole mountainside away, which is Western Pennsylvania. The thing that scares me is, are they putting sensors in those pipelines for pressure and stuff like that? So if there's a leak, do you know that?
They have no idea. That's the other thing. I'm in, there's categories for pipeline safety level. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 is near major cities. I'm a 1 where I'm at. There's no setbacks. There's no concern for the public safety. And the fact that they have packed 3 of these in this tight in these highly populated counties like Chester and Delaware, this thing never should have been done. If there's an explosion, it could kill thousands, tens of thousands.
I agree with you. But what I'm asking is, in those pipelines, are they putting pressure sensors to say if there's a leak? Because if there's a leak, then they shut it down from the, but who's to say that?
No, and they have no shutoff valves. They have manual shutoff valves on most of these. There's no automatic shutoff valves that would turn as soon as there's a problem, they could hit a button and shut them off from point to point. They don't have that. And if you've never turned one of these valves, they have to spin those for 20 minutes, some of them, to close a valve that's large, because
it's just like an old school, submarine.
There's also so much cubic feet in between those shutdowns. I mean, you got miles of cubic feet would drain out of them before they get in between them.
So
I agree with you. I agree.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap up here soon. I do want to mention that pipeline explosion in Westmoreland County that happened a couple miles from where our office is. And the gentleman lost his leg and his arm and basically half of his body.
Wow.
And by the time they were able to shut off, you are correct. There was so much explosive gas in that portion of the pipeline that it did take quite a while for them to shut it off and for it to burn off everything that was in that pipeline. So these are some things that we need to consider when we're living near all of these pipelines. And that was just a regular natural gas pipeline. And like someone, I believe it was Craig said, it was an older pipeline. The pipeline operator had seen an anomaly when they ran the pig 3 years before it actually happened. And I was at the meeting right after it happened, and I had asked the question, did you see an anomaly the last time you ran the pig? Did you see the corrosion? And they said no. And then after they did their investigation, they changed their tune and they said, well, actually we did. We just didn't think that the corrosion would be so significant so quickly because the soil in Pennsylvania is so dry and so wet. So this is what, some folks had talked about energy transfer, these folks from Sunoco coming up from different parts of the United States, the type of engineering that's been done on these pipelines, the type of calculations that have been done according to the soil content, according to the different type of weather patterns we have here in Pennsylvania. These things are not taken into consideration when you do the calculations, when their engineers are doing the calculations for these pipelines. So therefore you have just really, a disaster waiting to happen. And PK, I know you want to say something, and then we're going to wrap up within the next minute or so. So George?
Actually, Marcia is asking to speak.
Okay, great.
In the chat.
So Marcia, because Marcia hasn't spoken yet, we'll go ahead and give her 3 minutes, and then PK, if you could wrap up in 1. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Marcia.
Thanks, everybody. My name is Marcia Lehman. I'm with Beaver County Marcellus Awareness Community, BC MAC. And we had a terrible, terrible panic, horrible situation here, September the 10th, 2018, when the Revolution Pipeline, Sunoco ETP Revolution Pipeline a natural gas pipeline that it gathers the feeding lines from Butler County, comes down through Cranberry, Beaver County, and to Washington County to the processing plant, the gas processing plant. It exploded, a brand new pipeline exploded after having been in operation for only 6 days. And the odd thing is that no authority, no municipal authority, the police, no one knew that plant, that Sunoco started the operation of that plant.
And that's what I was talking about earlier.
Yes, yes. And so people, they built this pipeline on a very, very steep slope. We had a lot of rain that fall, and the pipeline literally slid and exploded. It took down 8 huge electrical grids, when you go across a valley and you see the big towers, those electrical towers, it took 8 of those down too.
Yep.
Yes, and people fled for their lives. It's very near a residential area. One house was completely exploded immediately. The people, the husband, wife, and their little niece who lived with them, and the dogs, they just ran for their lives. Another house was rendered uninhabitable, although it didn't completely explode, but Sunoco bought it out. And the whole neighborhood had to evacuate. And thank goodness now there's an Ivy Lane group. This happened in Ivy Lane in Beaver County and Center Township. And the Ivy Lane group has now formed a citizens group, and they've been very effective. I was surprised at Karen Kadula, who is, she's the activist with Ivy Lane. And I was surprised she wasn't on tonight because she has excellent pictures.
Marcia, it's funny that you say something in your comment saying that they rent out houses, because the houses that were behind me where I live in the course of Valley View, they condemned 5 of those houses, right? And then because all the sinkholes, right? And then 3 months later, all of a sudden, people are living in there.
Yeah.
They're Sunoco employees.
Yeah. And now there's another big, huge pipeline from National Fuel that's going to be feeding the Shell plastics plant in Monaca,
I know where you're at.
Multi-billion-dollar Shell plastics plant. And so didn't they go ahead and run the natural gas pipeline that's going to feed the cogen plant into Shell right by the Revolution? So now those dear people up in Ivy Lane have 2 huge pipelines.
I'm from the Philadelphia area.
Pardon?
My home is Hopewell, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
You're from Hopewell, Chuck.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So when Center Township blew up and the whole hillside went down because of the natural gas, my mom, she said from 15 miles away, her house shook. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
And then funny to be it, next thing you know, nobody's living in the houses behind me. But then Sunoco people, they're smoking dope, they're partying it up like there's no tomorrow. I don't care what you want to do. But all of a sudden, it's Sunoco. You condemn all these houses because you have sinkholes, 150 yards away from me. And you're now allowing Sunoco employees to work there and live there and party?
Yes.
Give me a break.
There's all kinds of new sex trafficking here too that was never in Beaver County before. At least
that's another thing.
That's been in the news a lot now since Shell came in.
Yep.
So I want to
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I want to give PK one more opportunity to speak to wrap this up. And I want to ask everyone, because we are going to send the chat, we are going to send the video of this to the governor and to Secretary McDonnell. I would like you all, if they were here tonight, what would you say to them? If you could put that in the chat so we can send that to them. And PK, if you could end our discussion tonight and wrap this up in 1 minute.
So,
go ahead.
I see a common theme. So first and foremost, that this pipeline came out of the ground as a gas, guys. It was regulated under 195, for some reason, a liquid pipeline, right? What took into concept, 192 is the other regulation, which is natural gas, which you guys are dealing with out there in Revolution pipeline world, which you now know they're trying to convert it to LNG, aren't they? They're trying to go to liquid gas, and that's why DEP stopped it. So they have this thing where they're trying to skirt by. See, the Mariner East is an Achilles heel. It's absolutely Achilles heel to the frac to plastic issue. They're trying to keep this
Amen.
pipeline. That's why it's so ridiculous, guys. Why
Yep.
we're seeing our rights and everything being violated so ridiculously, it's because the state, everybody's protecting it. So what I'm trying to say is look at the product. It is not, it's at all times. And that's why I was wondering if our PUC friend was still on, because at all times this product is actually, as a chemist, I can say this,
That E got
liquid and gas at all
earplugs in
times.
anyway.
It was chosen to be regulated under 195, which does not take into into consideration high consequence areas during their construction. So be aware that this isn't like broken. Like this was set up and there's a protectionism. Okay, so we have to keep fighting and like documenting and keeping our evidence, keeping our heads straight, and we have to reach out to Beaver County, to Tech PT and the fracking world, because we all have to do this together, because this is a unit. All of us got to break it down. We got to bring the Achilles. We don't need to cut the heel. It's basically a paper cut at this point, guys. Like,
Amen, PK.
And knock himself out.
You're right. You're right.
So thank you, everyone.
Jillian had to say it.
Thank you, PK. So I want to thank Mr. Horensky for coming tonight and for hearing all the testimony.
Is he still online?
Yes, he is. And I want to thank everyone who spoke tonight. I think that
He won't say nothing.
well, you know.
Yeah, Rob's still on the line. I took a lot of notes, heard what everyone said. So thank you.
I hope you do. I really do. I respect you, but I hope you do. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you,
You're
everyone.
welcome.
And please go to HaltMarinerNow.org. You can find some webinars that we did with George and other folks talking about safety issues and safety concerns with residents. We also have information on Protect PT's YouTube, so that's where you can find this, protectpt.org. You can find it on our website as well as on our YouTube. And
Jillian, thank you so much.
thank you, Mr. Henry, and thank you everyone for attending
Chuck.
tonight.
My dad's Mr. Henry. I'm young. I'm only 22.
So thank you to all of our partners that helped us put this together, because we could not have done it alone. So thank you all for attending and for helping us make this event a really compelling argument to shut this Mariner East pipeline down. That's what we want to have happen.
It's going for facts. That's all.
Thanks, Mary and Jillian and George and everybody for running this tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thanks,
evening.
Greg.
Thank you so much.